It didn't even start in the last century. It started thousands of years ago. Then everything stopped. Not gradually, almost overnight. Big ideas don't fail because they're wrong. They get delayed until the world is ready to support them.
Content presented in Cheshire Corners is for educational and informational purposes only. Please consult a legal professional if you have any questions or concerns about the content of this disclaimer, this series, or the legal implications surrounding psychedelic substances in your jurisdiction.
Welcome to Cheshire Corners. I'm the AI clone of Rita Salyuk, your host as we trip through the looking glass. You know, when people talk about psychedelics today, it often sounds like something new. Like we're just now discovering it, just now figuring it out. But the truth is, this story didn't start today. It didn't start in the last decade. It didn't even start in the last century. It started thousands of years ago. Across different cultures in different parts of the world, people were already working with plant medicines, substances that altered perception, that helped process emotion, that were used in healing, in ceremony, in connection. This wasn't considered fringe. It was integrated into how people understood the mind and how people healed. Then fast forward to the mid-20th century, the 1950s and 60s. That's when modern science began to seriously engage with psychedelics. Researchers were studying compounds like LSD and psilocybin in clinical settings. And what they were seeing was promising. There were early signs that these substances could help with depression, with addiction, with trauma. There was curiosity. There was momentum. There was this sense that maybe something important was unfolding. But then everything stopped. Not gradually, almost overnight. Because psychedelics became associated with counterculture movements, with political unrest, with things that the system didn't know how to control. And when something feels unpredictable, systems tend to shut it down. So the response wasn't, let's understand this better. It was, let's stop this. Research disappeared. Funding disappeared. The field went quiet. Not because we had all the answers, but because we stopped asking the questions. And for decades, that's where things stayed. Now, here's the interesting part. This pattern of discovery, rejection, and rediscovery is not unique to psychedelics. We've seen this before. There's a story from history that captures this almost perfectly. Back in the late 1500s, there was a thinker named Giordano Bruno. At that time, the dominant belief was that Earth sat at the center of everything. Everything revolved around us. That wasn't just science. It was how people understood reality itself. Then along comes Nicolaus Copernicus, and he says, actually, Earth moves around the sun. Already, that's a radical idea, but Bruno looks at that and says, what if it's even bigger than that? What if the sun isn't special? What if the stars we see in the sky are actually other suns? And what if there are other worlds out there? Now, today, that sounds obvious. But back then, it sounded impossible. There was no technology to prove it, no data, no framework to even process the idea. And when something is that far ahead of its time, society doesn't usually say, that's interesting. It usually says, that doesn't belong. Bruno was executed in 1600 by the Roman Inquisition. But here's the part that matters. He wasn't entirely wrong, he was just early. Because over time, the world started catching up. A few decades later, Galileo Galilei begins observing the sky with a telescope and finds things that don't make sense if Earth is the center. Then Johannes Kepler comes in and explains how planets actually move. And slowly, the model shifts. But Bruno's bigger vision, a universe filled with other suns and other worlds, that took centuries. We didn't confirm planets around other stars until the 1990s. Think about that. An idea imagined in the 1500s, taking hundreds of years to fully come into view. And that brings us back to where we are today, because I think we're watching a similar pattern unfold again. Not in astronomy, but in medicine, with psychedelics. We had early use, deeply integrated in certain cultures. Then early science, showing real promise. Then rejection, driven by fear, misunderstanding, and broader social forces. And now, we're in the rediscovery phase. Research is coming back. Clinical trials are expanding. Institutions are starting to take this seriously again. And even at the federal level, we're beginning to see early signals that open the door for more structured research. And we're even starting to see that shift more clearly now. Recently, the Trump administration took an initial step through an executive action aimed at opening pathways for more research into psychedelic therapies. Now, this doesn't mean broad approval. It doesn't change everything overnight. But it changes something important. It changes perception. It signals that this is moving from the margins into a space where it can be studied seriously. And historically, that moment matters. It's the point where something stops being dismissed and starts being examined. Acceptance isn't just about truth. It's about trust. It's about who says it and whether the system validates it. And I think that's why moments like this recent federal action matter so much. It's not about immediate outcomes. It's about reducing stigma. It's about shifting the conversation from this is questionable to this is worth studying. And historically, once that shift happens, things can move much faster. Because now you get more research, more funding, more infrastructure, more people willing to engage. That's the phase we're entering now. Not full acceptance, but real momentum. Almados Denver is building in that middle phase. Almados is a licensed microdosing healing center operating under Colorado's natural medicine framework. And what they are focused on is making this practical. Structured, responsible, accessible, not extreme experiences, but microdosing, done intentionally in a controlled setting with guidance, something that can fit into people's lives, something that can be tracked, measured, and improved over time. Because if this field is going to move forward, it needs more than belief. It needs consistency. It needs repeatability. It needs trust. So we're not just imagining what's possible. We're helping build the system that makes it real. And maybe that's the real lesson from history. Big ideas don't fail because they're wrong. They get delayed until the world is ready to support them. The difference now is that we have a chance to be ready. We have better science, better tools, better infrastructure. So maybe this time, we don't have to wait hundreds of years. Maybe this time, we build it right and we build it faster. Because when the signal changes, when people start to listen, what once felt impossible starts becoming inevitable. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, please like and subscribe to Cheshire Corners. Tell me what you think in the comments. And as always, don't get psyched out.